Hey everybody, welcome to Britpop Reaction. Me, BP1 and BP2, and today we've got two members of the UK band Tillerman on the channel, ladies and gentlemen. Here they are. Hey guys.
Good evening. Good evening, everybody.
How you
Thanks
doing?
for joining us.
Do you want to just introduce yourself, guys, and we'll go from there?
Yeah.
Start with you, John.
So, I'm John. Strange Polish surname, Kulczyski, third generation Paul, and I am the lead singer, rhythm guitarist in Tillerman.
Yeah, and I'm Sean, guitarist in Tillerman. Yeah,
we heard that. Got some good feedback on your vocals there, didn't we, John? Some of the comments that we've seen. So, yeah, nice sort of.
Yeah, happy with that.
Not quite a gravelly voice, but yeah, it comes over very good.
You know also,
really before we move on
with that, I'm really pleased because ever since X Factor and the likes, everyone's got an opinion on vocals, haven't they? Everyone wants to be a critic on everyone's vocals. I can hide in the background; no one cares what I do.
Yeah,
it's great, but I'd be terrified of being a singer.
Yeah, you're up there front and centre.
Is it just the two of you guys in the band, or
no? John's brother Tom plays drums, and then Ian, who's a long time suffering bass player that deals with us.
Of course. Yes.
Of course, indeed. Yes. Okay. I was just going to give a quick mention to the reason that we were all together was from an introduction by Chris from Duesenberg. I believe he put the video out on the Duesenberg website as well. I think he sort of you got a close collaboration with him and Duesenberg Guitars. So thanks to Chris for doing that, and might catch up with him at some stage. But anyway, so yeah, you mentioned your brother Tom is in the band, drummer. All that okay? Get on okay as brothers? No sibling rivalry or anything?
Like there's no headlines there, like the Gallaghers and the Kinks guys, Ray Davis and Dave Davis. We've got on like House on Fire. I think because of the age difference, 7 years, I've always kind of been like a fatherly figure, so never been any argument. But I have a twin sister as well. Now, yeah, we did have a few arguments there, but with Tom, it's always been pretty much plain sailing, which is unique within bands.
Didn't ever try and get the sister in the band then? No, definitely not.
She's requested several times to play the tambourine
in the background.
Brilliant.
Bless her. She's got a good voice, though. But yeah, long distance band member.
Oh, funny. How long have you guys all been together? When did it sort of start, and how did you get to where you are now?
It's one of those, like most bands, there's a journey and a story behind it. Sean will probably add to this as well, but my first recollection of Sean was down at a local basketball court, and he was with a mate of mine from school. I just remember this lad wearing a pork pie hat and a New York Yankees baseball top and being quite pleasant. Then the next thing, I think it was literally a few weeks later, the place where I was working working in the kitchen at a local restaurant. In walks this chap with the same pork pie on and the same New York. Yeah, he's now a colleague of mine, and we just hit it off. Really, I think if you hit it off with a friend, often chances have it. Sometimes these things develop if you've got mutual interests, which obviously music was one of those.
Yeah. I mean, we're going out on a limb calling it a restaurant there. What we did wasn't it wasn't but yeah, and from that point on, I suppose we had mutual interests, and. John was already like sort of making some music with people, and I just tagged along once at one band practice and picked up a guitar and started playing along, and it just started from there really. But that was quite a while ago. That was over 20 years ago.
Right,
yeah, long time ago.
Yeah.
Wow, yeah.
And I mean,
were you both musically? I was just going to say, were you both musically at that point in time when you sort of met? You already play the guitar? And you already sort of knew.
I played guitar since I was 7. I had sort of so I did the whole classical Spanish thing until I was what, about 14, 15. Gave it up and didn't really pick up the guitar again up until pretty much knocking about with John. Actually, it's on that sort of time. I think when I went to one of his practices, actually, it was I was picked up a guitar. Then I'd barely touched one in a few years since before that.
Oh, right. So you kind of stopped, and then only because the guitar was there, you picked it up and went well. Okay, that's interesting. Yeah, cool.
I think I learned guitar probably around about 18 or 19, quite late, but I had a history of writing songs. I used to, from one of my Christmases, I had a karaoke player, cassette one, and I used to sit and rewrite the lyrics to the existing backing tracks. Downtown by Petula to Clark, and all these kind of crazy things, because I couldn't play anything. And then eventually I learned to play the guitar and started writing my own songs. But I'd had a history of kind of being creative with lyrics and stuff beforehand. So, yeah.
Cool. That's interesting.
Yeah. So obviously we've got your new single out, Moody Blues, Nights in White Satin. Any
Nights in White Satin, never reaching the end. Letters I've written, never meaning to send.
Any specific reason for covering that? And obviously it was a big song to start with, so sort of what were your thoughts going into it? I think, how do we not mess this up kind of thing, or are we going to change it massively, or are we going to stick to it? What was your sort of thoughts on going into doing that, and why pick the song?
So there's probably a story on both parts of ours, to be honest. I mean, back in the day we had loads of different incarnations of us as a band. We didn't really know what we were musically, because we've got so much we've got so many collective music collections and kind of ideas behind each of the band members. Went through a metal phase, rock phase, a cheesy pop phase, and Nights in White Satin.
Occasionally songs that included all three areas of those.
Examples of. And it's funny because Nights in White Satin, we introduced that as a cover to our sets years ago, and it was always something that sat really well for us. And you mentioned vocally earlier on, and it's within my vocal range as a kind of a sweet spot. That's why we like doing it. And it was one of Sean's favourite songs, and Sean might tell you a bit more about the background to him. I think you were the person that suggested we do this live. And it kind of influenced where we are now musically.
So yeah, I mean, what it was is we were going to do a battle of the bands when we very first kicked off, like back at those sort of points. And part of this battle of the bands, you had to do one of your own songs in a cover. We'd not been playing together very long at all at that point, and the only other cover we had was Times Like These by the Foo Fighters, and we were crap at it. Like we weren't good at doing that song. And I think at one practice, I said, "Why don't we do this song instead?" Everyone knows the song, and it seems to be the mantra that I keep repeating at the minute. Is everyone knows this song, but nobody remembers this song. It seems to be like as soon as everyone hears it, you guys did it in your reaction. It's like, oh, I've forgotten how good this song actually is. But when you hear it, you think, oh man, that's a great song. And everyone can hum along to it. Everybody knows it. You just forget it. It's a forgotten classic. So we learned it. It was easy enough to learn to play as a band. But you raise a good point there as well. Playing it live was one thing. You can get away with whatever you want live. No one expects you to try and recreate an orchestra live.
Yep.
As soon as you start going into a studio, me and John had this conversation loads of times. I was very much a case of, oh man, the one thing I definitely don't want to do with this is Carlos Santana-ize it, which is basically have a cover with some bongos and some guitar noodling throughout it, and nothing in between. Pretty much what he does to every track. It's the same. He's done the same track since 1969.
Presses option 4 on the Bond Tempi, and away you go, innit?
Few bongos, few same guitar scale. And I was really nervous about that. And I have a different project that I do, which with some people, which is like I suppose it's an instrumental thing that's bit cinematic guitar music, that sort of. We kind of coined it as instrumental music for people that hate instrumentals. So some mates did that, and John was saying, just bring that to this, which is basically like sort of sound effecty and moody sort of stuff. So I was quite nervous about doing this song because I really didn't want to mess it up because I love it so much, and it would have almost been easier to ruin this song than to actually do something useful with it. So luckily, that's why I take it as really well when the feedback that we've had is, oh, that's a good version of this song, because anything anything where it's that's a good version of this song is good enough because it's a great song to start with. That means we didn't ruin it, and that is enough. I'm happy with that.
Yeah, it's you guys are the reason why I'm humming it all the time. I was saying, of all the reactions that we do what, every day we've got a reaction going out. So we're recorded quite often. But that's the song. Since hearing you guys do it again, I'm not saying it just because you're here. Literally, I find myself singing that around the house all the time now, randomly. It just sticks, that song. I haven't heard it for so long.
No.
But I don't know what it is about that song, but it's just there, and it comes to the forefront if you just.
There's one of those that it's never included, right? And I don't know whether this is a copyright thing with the guys who wrote it in the Moody Blues or whatever. It's never on those greatest hits of the '60s compilations,
right?
Like the Beatles. The Beatles is never on it. They're never on a greatest hit of the '60s, which I don't think you can have a greatest hit of the '60s without the Beatles being on it. but they're never on it. And you never hear anything about it. It's never on the radio. You don't hear it that often. The only time you do get it, Martin Scorsese puts it in films.
Right.
His soundtracks are always really good. Like they're always really well thought out soundtracks. And he's had this in a couple. I think it was in Casino. I think it was in it, but you don't hear it very often. But as soon as you hear it, it's a real earworm. That chorus is just such a strong chorus. You think, yeah, all right, that's there forever.
Yeah. And as we sort of mentioned on the reaction, you did make it sound quite a full sort of, being only 4 guys there, you made it sound really full when it kicked in, which was like, okay, we can see where this is going now. If it had sort of stayed the same all the way through, it'd have been good cover. But no, because you sort of filled it all up and you could see where it was going then. So I think you did that very cleverly as well. Yeah, but it worked well though. As you say, if you'd clicked the effects pedal, sound like an electric flute, it would have rolled. But whatever you picked there was the right one because it really kind of went whoa. So that was cool.
Absolutely. That, like I say, for me was that. Right, John recorded the vocals in his part, and Tom did the drums, and Ian did the bass before I did the guitar because just with work I didn't get around to doing it. So I already knew that John had done an absolutely brilliant job in it, and the backing vocals from Tom were really good in it. I thought, all right,
very good, yeah.
Like just to add insult to injury is I could not only mess up the classic version of it; they've done a really good job. I could also mess up their work. It luckily didn't fall quite that badly.
Well, while we're on the subject of obviously the single, obviously we reacted to the video, and one of the questions that we did have on there was obviously the older gentleman at the beginning putting the vinyl on there. Is that a family friend, or is it just? It is your dad. We did think.
You called that.
John mentioned. I think John wrote that in one of the comments, didn't you? To I think it was Firefighter Chick. You replied that. She said it. You're right.
It's always
to talk him into it.
Tracks. And John, I can't take any credit for the video at all. Right. I am a guitar player, and it ends there. John has got a really good visual. Like John's a great artist in general, so John could probably tell you more about his process with that. But it was John who set all that up.
Yeah, so there are 2 threads to this. I mean, if you're going to do a video, you've got to make it a bit more interesting than just stood looking at the camera with a glazed expression. So we needed a bit of a narrative to it. We've used these guys called Grip Pictures, based in Brigham, West Yorkshire. The last couple of music videos we've done, really great guys. We've always brought a concept to whatever we've done. So for this, I imagine, because it's a period piece, 1967, the concept was a guy who was nice, who was a fan of that song, pulls out the vinyl, but in this instance, it's the Tillerman version, thinking that we did the original, but obviously we didn't. I'd love to have done. Does sit down, puts it on the vinyl, closes his eyes, and I think as you were commenting on the video, you worked out the narrative and took him back to the day when he could have been watching that in the hall for the first time with the band. We magically go back in time and appear and do a live performance for him, and then the footage in the park with the greenery it was kind of the original music video interwoven with his thoughts of seeing us live. And then it magically appears. Obviously, he moves from the house to the hall, and he's kind of in this weird, surreal experience. And then it all comes to an end, and there you have it. So I think it carries it quite well. I was worried that might get lost as we recorded it, but I think it does work, and it keeps it.
Well, if us 2 idiots can pick up on it at the end, then you definitely made it.
Between the two of us, we managed it, so I'm sure.
You did.
It's a good tester. And the reason we use Sean's dad as well is it was a favourite song of his. And of course, we're all kind of, the reason why we're here is because of our parents' record collections. So obviously it's one of Sean's favourite songs. And as it happens, it was one of Sean's dad's favourite songs as well. So we thought it'd be a good homage to have him in, actually, and have him part of the video.
Wow.
So it was really chuffed to be part of that.
Mind you, I shuddered when he put the needle down by hand and didn't use the lever. I don't know if you caught that.
Oh, he's old school.
Sacrilege!
Yeah, he's old school.
And I mean,
he has the original sort of. He has the Days of Future Past, which the Moody Blues album that this is from. He bought that in the '60s. He's got that still. He's
still got it.
Yeah.
He's just started his musical collection at the moment.
Yes.
Just recently talked him into buying a vinyl player. So.
Yeah, I never had a vinyl when I was. I mean, we got the Knoll one, although I should be showing another one. But,
things about
that. We'll put the Tillerman
expensive
one
hobby these days. Yeah, I'll have to superimpose the Tillerman one. Did it take you guys long to shoot that video?
Yeah, I was going to ask that. Yep.
Yeah.
It was a full day. Yeah. We were tired. We're out at the park at like 8 in the morning because we were. Yeah. We knew there was a park run happening, I think, at some point.
Oh, right.
It
would have been brilliant. You should have slipped something in.
Running past them. We only got about 2 or 3 dog walkers, but we got really lucky. It was such a beautiful day as well. And then we were at another venue doing the live shoot. And then we were back at Sean's house, setting up and getting Sean's dad across to do that bit. So I think by the time we wrapped up, we got home, it was knocking on 7 o'clock at night. So yeah, it was good.
Not a bad day's work, though, to be fair, from 7, 8, early morning to the evening. I mean, how many times did you have to listen to yourself play back it? Was it every single time play back? Yeah.
We hate it by the end of that day.
Yeah. That's the trouble, isn't it?
They can't wait to not hear it.
Yeah, okay. And so we sort of mentioned the new single. Apparently it's off a new album, so... Any plans on that? Any sort of movement on that?
Yeah, it's funny. We haven't got a working title, but I did suggest to our producer that we titled it "Waiting for Sean." He's actually written and recorded, but there's about 3 tracks that Sean's still going to get some lead guitar on. So we've got to book that studio time in. But he's done, and the tracks are there. And but we wanted, like I said, cover to add to it, just because it's a lot of it's retro themed. A lot of the music in there sounds quite 60s and 70s, so it's quite appropriate to put that track on there and give it pay it a nod. But yeah, it's done. We'd like to get it out there end of the summer, start of autumn, and then we'll probably launch it with another video for something else. We've got some other great tracks of our own that we'd like to get out there as well to kind of push it.
Yeah.
You've already released the 5-track EP, Gathering.
Yeah.
I mean, we both listened to quite a few tracks from what you had on your social media platforms and Spotify. So I think I picked Via Dolores was one of my favourites, and you had, which one was yours?
Rainbow, yeah.
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 On the stuff on your new album, does that follow in a similar vein to this, or is it? Can you see yourself switching up? Pretty much, Sean said there.
Yeah, but right. So John's right again. So to go back through there, we've done all these gauntlet like these. We've run the gauntlet of doing so many different styles, and the fact is, there is a style of writing that John does that. So on things like Via Dolorosa, on My Eden, those ones that you've heard there, that very honest and actually represents perfectly well who John is as a songwriter. It absolutely does, and then for me, I can augment that with things that maybe I'm useful on guitar, and actually as a band we do things quite well, and I think those are good representations. The stuff that you haven't heard that's on there, there's strangely enough, there's some stuff that we wrote together like 20 years ago that are going on there, and it's not the ones that's metal pop all in one go. And they were good enough songs that we have done a sort of a rejig of them and put them back on. But yeah, it's still very much in the same vein. It's still got a retro feel to it. Very like Nights in White. The reason it fits is that actually is quite representative of a lot of the stuff that we do. There's a lot of aspects that are in Nights in White that are in a lot of our own stuff. Brilliance, mainly.
Yeah. By that flag. Is there a standout? I mean, you mentioned it there. So something as going back 20 years to sort of elaborate on it and put on there. Is there something standout on the album that you both, that really means something to you guys? Or yeah.
How much is yours for that?
Yeah, there's a couple there. There's one that we kind of rewrote called "Hear Angels Cry," which is our previous single, and it very much sounds like Nights in White Sign, if you've heard that, in a minor key, similar kind of range vocally and style as well. But that was something we originally wrote years ago in a different format and kind of rewrote for this album. But yeah, going forward, there's a track called Roller Coaster as well, which is kind of indie pop, Britpop, would kind of suit your channel down to a T. So we're quite keen to get that one out. But it's tough. There's lots of different tracks that mean a lot to us. There's one you'll probably listen to it called Hold Me, Haunt Me, which is a kind of reflection of my dad passing away about 13 years ago, cancer, and that kind of emptiness, just someone's here and then they're not, and how do you deal with that emotion? And kind of, a lot of people, what goes through your head is, if I just had one more moment with them, what would I say? There's things you've not said or things you would have done. So that's reflecting on that. We've done a different version for the album. It's got piano in it as well. So that's going to be kind of the deluxe version on the album.
All right.
But each song really has got a story to it, because we spent so long putting this together, and it's a great cliche in it for bands. Your debut album's brilliant. You've got a lifetime to work on it. It's the follow-up which kills. It makes or break you. Yeah. Noel, when he's written, for Oasis, he had the first 3 albums in his back pocket, before he got signed. So we're quite proud of this first album. There's a lot of really good songs on it, and there's some stuff from the first EP we're not featuring because it just doesn't fit. I'm not sure if you want to add to anything, Sean, any other songs you want to mention?
No, I mean, for me, so definitely the Hold Me, Haunt Me, because I remember that happening at the time, obviously. But Hear Angels was always one for us, because that was possibly the first one that me and John wrote together. I wrote that in his front room, like the music to it. When we, like I say, that was over 20 years ago that we did that. It was also the first one that we ever played with Ian, who plays bass with us. That was his first track that he ever played with us. It was kind of an interesting one, because that stuck around with us for ages. That one. So that was the first one that me and John really collaborated on properly. That wasn't a pre-existing song before John already had the song and then I augmented it. That was one of the first ones we did. So I love the fact that we've gone back to that. That's a nice nostalgic thing for me.
Just something that you mentioned there, John. We did a recent interview with a young lad, Andrew Cushing, who's on tour at the moment with Louis Tomlinson. And one of the songs that we reacted to from him was this 4.5% track, which was written about his dad going through alcoholism, and then you mentioned that you wrote that song, Hold Me, Haunt Me. And I think Lewis Capaldi, I don't write songs, but is it something that you got inside of you and you just go, I need to get this out and put it down on paper, and then you go, all right, I can move these words around and then put some chords to it, and then you give it to the band and they go, all right, like Sean goes, oh yeah, I can put a little, solo in here. Is that your process of sort of getting it out of your head, and once it's done and on paper, you kind of let it go then and you can move on?
Yeah, I think so. I think for a lot of people who've gone through stuff, songwriting is quite a cathartic process into getting out there. But I think, any kind of songwriter pulls on real life experience, and it's those songs that come from a sense of reality and experience that are often the best. And it is so true when you kind of made it. You see these stars have made a fortune. They're on to the 3rd or 5th album. What do you write about when you sat in your penthouse? Your long drive with your 5 cars. It's really hard to pull kind of stuff to write about. So yeah, everything that we've done that we think is decent has come from a place of authenticity. And I think when we look back to when we're younger and a bit more naive, we're trying to be a band that we weren't trying to fit into a certain genre that we really weren't all aligned to. And you can tell, but when we write from the heart and we come at it from a genuine kind of perspective, not trying to please anyone but ourselves, that's when you get the magic and it flows really easily. And it's the same with Sean. When he writes, it's got to come from the heart. And he's got to be in that kind of zone and mood to pull out his best stuff.
Yeah, I'd echo that entirely. I mean, from an outside looking in perspective, and I hope you don't mind me saying this, John, is when all that was happening, and some of the stuff that really got you back like that, back into when your dad unfortunately passed. But some of the stuff that we wrote coming straight out of that, I always thought was some of the best stuff that you ever did, because that was you dealing with it in your own way. And like John said, if you look back at the history of music, the songs that genuinely reach people and that genuinely move people. Why did Adele's 21 album do so well? It's because it's relatable. Like in fact, her performance was brilliant. The songs were written really well, but everyone heard it and got it. Same as you go back, you've got Marvin Gaye, like What's Going On album again, absolutely nailed that moment in time, and it was total honesty, total integrity that did that. And any album that you've got throughout history that has really done something, it's got integrity to it and it's got honesty to it. People can see through crap. Like that's the one thing I would say to anybody coming through with anything, or anyone starting out, is anybody who is genuinely honest. Why did the Gallaghers come across like they did? Because those first few albums, they made living in Moss Side on the breadline seem like a good idea. That's
we all wanted to be there then.
Like you go around Manchester now, people still want to do it. Like and it's because it was real. It wasn't an act. It wasn't a joke. That was them, and they were just going to come across as they did. Yeah. And people can see that. And I think that's the truth with some of these songs that John's talking about. And hopefully, when you get to hear them, that you'll hear that too.
It's like Damon Albarn. We just talked about Gallagher's, but Damon Albarn, he has to take himself to Finland and look at mountains and see just to get inspiration now, because he's just so, I mean, he's got so many different collaborations going on. When he tries to release anything, I don't think he knows who he is anymore when he does certain things like that. So, having all that.
Yeah, you've got some great exceptions to that sort of stuff. Like people like David Bowie, how did he keep doing it? Like, but the thing is, he was that musical, and he surrounded himself with geniuses. Like, if you look at every one of his bands, just geniuses in every guise throughout his entire career. Like, he always had the best guitar players, for example, in them. I mean, on one of the
Stevie Ray Vaughan.
Well, Stevie Ray played the solo on that, didn't he? But now,
we did reactions to that. He did, Niall from Chic.
Yeah, so you think, well, that's not a bad collaboration. And at that point, I think he had Adrian Belew playing, like, in a normal case, which he took out of Frank Zappa's band. Like, and you think that's just an outrageous amount of talent that he had. But he kept reinventing himself, but it was always honest. There was never anything with David Bowie that you hear and you think, well, that's just an act.
I've heard that before. No.
That was him being a creative, wasn't it?
Indeed. So, I mean, do you guys, you mentioned it a little bit beforehand, but you said when you go out gigging, are you still gigging? Have you got gigs coming up? Can people see you anywhere? What's the score?
Well, I think what the plan is to get the record done. Is finish it off, get that out there, because there's no point in sort of going out gigging if you've got nothing to do. And if people have never heard anything that you've got, I think it's one of those things that we're probably not going to be one of those bands that try to do 200 gigs a year, because that's a bit difficult these days. There's hardly any venues for a start. There's not enough. But I think it's all about get the album finished first and then take it from there, and we'll launch it, do some gigs to support that, and get out and about as much as possible.
What you call the album again? Sorry, what was it? Waiting for Sean, was it? You said. We still not got a. Still got not got a name then.
No. Talking about this the other day, John. Rewind. I still think Rewind's not a bad one.
Yeah, that could be one. Going back to the gigs as well. I mean, we kind of got back together and started pumping out material just before lockdown, so we couldn't gig. So we became a studio band really in the interim that recorded, and then I'd seen a lot more unsigned bands pumping out music videos, which wasn't a thing when we were doing it the first time. There was the mobile phone capability wasn't there. To get a professional crew down and shoot something would have cost an arm and a leg, and you're certainly not going to be able to afford that as a studios
costing band.
Yeah, yeah, and studio, and it still does, I suppose, because we're working as well in the day. You can afford these things now. So we went down that avenue of putting out quality material, but with a video behind it, with the rise of social media, you can do more things with that. But yeah, we do miss getting out and playing, and the songs do take on a life of their own when you get them out into a venue. So that is the plan for sure. But it would certainly help pushing those gigs when you've got 3 or 4 music videos, when people can engage in you first to know what to expect when they come to see you.
I mean, you talk about that. I don't know if you know the band at all. One of the bands that we do on the channel quite a lot, young girl band. I think they're touring the UK at the moment, called The Warning, Mexican girl rock band. I think they got noticed on YouTube for doing their covers of Metallica, and they really. I think they supported Foo Fighters in one of the unfortunately on the tour where Taylor passed away, but they did this great music video, didn't they? And it was all shot on iPhones. Remember that one?
They did, yeah.
You know, so like you say, I mean, you don't need all this stuff now. You know, they were doing it all on iPhones, and it looked impressive. You know, so it's brilliant where we are with technology and stuff now. So, like I say, you can make all these things and make them look special and do it all from home. I mean, it's brilliant. But,
you mentioned Damon Albarn. Have you seen that video that's circulating of him, of how he wrote the Gorillaz track?
No, I've not seen it. No.
Right, basically, he got a keyboard delivered, I forget which track it is. What's the most popular one? That I Ain't Happy. That one.
Yeah.
He had that, and it is a preset on a keyboard where you just start it, and it's all the music is a preset on a keyboard.
Is it really?
None of it is written at all. It is one preset, and he plays it to Zen Low. He just plays it now. He went, now you look, just press start there, and it is the song. And all he's done is put I Ain't Happy over the top of it.
But it's a Casio.
Yeah. Brilliant.
Have you managed to get to? I was going to say we talked about gigging. Have you managed to get out to any festivals, or are you planning on getting out to any festivals at all, or is that you done that?
This weekend we're meant to be going to the North Sea Jazz Festival this weekend.
Oh, right, okay.
So over there's a good thing. It's a bit of an eclectic lineup there, because you've got Stormzy and Lizzo playing, but you've also got Buddy Guy doing his last set. You've got Morrison playing there. So I mean, there's loads, and I quite like jazz. So there's a load of that in there as well, which, you know, pretentious stuff that my wife calls it.
Nice.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Bar show.
Yeah. We haven't done too much jazz on the show, but it normally gets that reaction, doesn't it? Oh, that went on a bit long. No Glastonbury then?
No, do you know what? I watched loads of it, and I thought there was some great stuff on there. I think in social media, we mentioned it before we started recording, is the viciousness of social media and some of the comments that go on about people that are performing at Glastonbury, and you kind of think, well, not one thing is for everyone, but I thought there was some brilliant stuff on this year. I really did. I thought there was some stuff that was just. I thought Elton was brilliant. I mean, is there a better song set list than that? I mean, try beat that one. There's not many people.
One after the other, wouldn't it?
Stevens with his, it is again great set list. Then you've got the Foos coming out and doing what they did. Guns N' Roses were brilliant. I thought. See, for me,
Axel. I mean, I'm not sure about Axel. Slash is, he held his own, didn't he? I think he
Slash. Yeah. It's hard, isn't it? Because again, as a front man, he's never going to be the 22-year-old.
Everybody wanted him to be, didn't they? I think that's
Mick Jagger still is the 22-year-old. Well, he tries to be.
I went to see them. I saw them in 2019. I saw that Richard Ashcroft supported, actually. And it was they gave Richard Ashcroft the rights back to Bittersweet. So he was supporting them and it gave him back. But I've seen the Rolling Stones a couple of times. Genuinely, I forget how good they are live, and it isn't. They're not good for a bunch of guys in the 70s. They're just great. They are so good live.
Yeah.
Pretty impressive, aren't they?
So, I mean, we've mentioned a lot of artists as we've gone down the road there. You know, you've mentioned the Stones and EnderOllie. If you could record with anybody, what sort of, you know, who would you be looking at? You know, who would you have in mind going, yeah, I wish we could sort of do something with them, you know, hypothetically?
I would probably, well, there's a couple of people. I'd love to do something either Paul McCartney or John Power from Cast. And from a personal kind of dream.
Don't do it, John, don't do it. Don't do it.
He knows it. He's queuing him up. Don't do it. Step away.
One of the last gigs I went to the end of last year was in Las Vegas. It was a Shahzaib Ahmed last night. That would be like a real left field kind of collaboration. But yeah, I mean, the last few gigs I've been to were the Eagles, massive fan of. What else? There was Shania Twain. There was ABBA Voyage in London, which was amazing.
Okay, yeah.
Liam Gallagher at the Etihad. So you can imagine my record collection's a bit of a mess. It's about, it's all over the place. But I suppose for songwriters, you do get that. You just kind of pull in melodies and ideas from everywhere. So that's where I kind of diverge from Sean's record collection. We have a mutual pot, and mine goes off on a weird tangent.
Right. If you want something,
we've got the same.
Yeah.
Mutual pot, and then.
So Sean knew that was coming, but I mean, so you knew it was Shania Twain, did you?
Oh, right. Genuinely, John is an uber Shania Twain fan, and the thing is, she's right. Yeah, she can write a great song. Like, no kidding with that side of things, but I'm not sure that's the reason.
Yeah, there is that. We had a Sorry, carry on, mate.
I'd say Rick Rubin.
Rick Rubin, really?
Rick Rubin,
right? Because as a producer, if you look at who he's produced, it's wild in terms of how different it is. So he's done Wu-Tang, he's done Slayer, he's done Red Hot Chili Peppers, he did Jay-Z's Black Album. He doesn't have any musical ability. He doesn't press one button on a console. He doesn't press one button in a studio. His entire thing is he's got a set of ears. But every single person that records with him, they absolutely smash it. He's got more hit albums under him where you think, that just so right. I'd love to just be in the presence of somebody with that mentality. I think that'd be a really inspiring place to be, or deliberate, or it would crush you. If you're with someone like that, but he's just all he does is sit and listen and points things out. He doesn't do anything else.
And do you think that's probably because he just tells it as it is, rather than somebody that sat there, you know, being paid to do it, going, yeah, that sounds great, even though he probably thought it was the worst thing he's ever heard, maybe?
No, I think Rick Rubin is one of those people that he picks what he does.
Right.
He picks what he does because he works with the people he wants to. I mean, certainly
he's already genuinely invested.
But even back then, I mean, I think one of his first albums, it was either he did the first LL Cool J album back in 86 or 87. I think that was one of his first ones. And around the same time, he did Slayer's Rain in Blood album. Like,
we love Slayer on air, don't we?
Like, go pick those out. You know, like it's just as random. And I think where he can just make a difference. I think it'd be super interesting to be around someone like that.
Okay, brilliant.
So what about influences? So just to sort of just chat about the influences, because obviously you mentioned Cast there, John, and you know Rick Rubin, obviously from a producer point of view. But from an influence point of view, where you feel that you come from, or what that you're trying to channel, that just comes out because that's the music you enjoy and that's the music you want to create.
Yeah, I mean, I've always been drawn to kind of great vocal harmonies and stuff like Beach Boys, Beatles, Crowded House, Everly Brothers, you know, Fleet Foxes in kind of more modern times, and anything that can make you cry, you know, bring a tear to a glass eye. That's what pulls me. But it's got to have a strong melody. So I always get drawn to emotion. It pulls me in first. You know, sounds from his voices and harmonies. I think for Sean, it's probably coming from a more musical perspective.
Yeah, I think for me, there's quite a wide range musically. I mean, I grew up on Zeppelin. Like they were like I knew the words to their album by the time I was 3 or 4. I remember going for my first guitar lesson and taking a Led Zeppelin 4 guitar book in to teach me that. I was 7. Like
Wow.
that was how I started. But then, like I said, it's quite a wide range. I mean, what I've been listening to recently, I love Miles Davis. I love John Coltrane. I love Thomas Newman. And Thomas Newman is he's does all the film soundtracks. So you'll know him. You'll have heard so many of his things. You just won't know it. Again,
know his name.
Beauty. It did like Erin Brockovich did Adjustment Bureau. He's done so many films, all great, absolutely brilliant. But his orchestration is brilliant, and that's kind of where I'll kind of. But then John Squire, I'm a massive John Squire fan. Like all that sort of stuff. I've got Jimi Hendrix tattooed on my arm, like it's
on my arm. There's a slight delay there. Oh.
We'll edit it so it says it's tattooed on your ass. Don't worry.
Yeah, no worries. So you mentioned the guy there, the soundtrack man. I don't know if you spoke to Chris recently, but last year he invited me to the Bond experience that he came over to do the Royal Albert Hall
with Hans Zimmer.
Hans Zimmer and that, and they created the Bond guitar, and Chris said, "Oh, we got to go to the Albert Hall because they put the guys that have laser etched the guitar knob have done it upside down, because when you look at it, it's supposed to say 007 because it's the handle type knob, and they put it on the wrong way round. So he said, I've got to go in there and change it around. So we got backstage passes to go in. He's fumbling around with this guitar. I look over and there's a guy just came in the room, and I go, all right, mate, you here to play an instrument? And he goes, well, I was going to play this keyboard here, but he said, I've seen this guitar, so I'm playing that. And when we walked out, Chris goes, oh yeah, that's Hans Zimmer. I had no idea. Mate. Oh yeah, he's written a few good songs, hasn't he? But there you go.
He's a genius, isn't he? And he's another one of those again, I'd love to see the process in how those people work, because I've been fortunate enough, I suppose, fairly recently as well. I've got to work with some musicians that are out of some really incredible, like people like Jamiroquai, people out of who recorded Amy Winehouse's Back to Black album, and some others. I did some gigs with those guys, and working with people like that, it's wild how well their brains work.
How it comes up,
musically, it's just odd. In a way, they just speak a different language that I don't get. Someone like Hans Zimmer, I'd love to see his process.
Oh yeah. Okay, guys. Well, we've been here a little while now. I mean, is there anything else you want to put out there that we haven't covered yet? Anything that we forgot to mention, or and then we've got a little thing to wrap up at the end, haven't we?
Yeah, I suppose for anyone who's not come across us before, also we're based near Leeds in West Yorkshire. We've got some profiles online. Check us out on our Facebook page. If you like Nights in White Satin, a couple of other decent music videos, and one My Eden and Rainbow, which we mentioned on the call as well. But check those out. Check out the Facebook page, and keep your eyes and ears peeled for the next release, as it were. But yeah, it's been good reaction. Thanks for having us on.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Great. Thanks for doing the reactions video to the single. Really enjoyed watching that.
Thanks for being kind.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's not,
it's genuine.
Yeah, it was genuine, and it's nice for us to sort of do it and then actually speak to the. I mean, I don't think we're ever going to get to speak to half the people we react to. So hopefully, we would get similar.
Say never.
Replies. Yeah. Well, here we go. Start for 10. So talking to start for 10, what we're going to finish off with then?
We're going to finish off with a little game we like to play, This or That. So it's a getting to know you session. So obviously, we know about your band and what you said today, but a little bit personal. We're going to ask a question each. Pick one or the other, so then we can sort of, we'll rattle through them, and we'll see what you all like. All right, do you want to start, BP2?
I will indeed, BP1. Leeds Rhinos or Leeds United?
Rhinos.
Leeds Rhinos.
Mauritius or Las Vegas?
Mauritius.
Yeah, easy time, not high stress.
Vegas though.
Yeah, Iron Man or Spider-Man?
Oh, my daughter asked me this on Saturday night. Yeah, Iron Man. Yeah.
Yeah, Iron Man, I think. Yeah.
Oh,
Cool
we're in
soundtrack.
sync so far. So if you're going to do a gig, sold out gig, Wembley or Cavern Club?
Wembley.
Yeah, bigger venue in it, more cash.
Yeah.
Vinyl or digital?
What's that, sorry?
Sorry, vinyl or digital music?
Personally, to listen to vinyl, but to use as an artist, digital.
Yeah, same.
Okay. Yorkshire pudding or fish and chips?
Yorkshire pudding. You can put fish and chips in it.
No.
I'm going to go fish and chips. But we've got to be beef dripping.
Beef dripping.
Yeah.
Okay.
Beef dripping, yeah,
Early bird or night owls?
Night.
Night owls. Yeah.
Sweet or savoury?
I do like a Haribo, but I can kill a few packets of crisps and pizza. It's got to be savoury, I think.
What's he got there?
Sean's doing the
I've
visual
got a rhubarb and
answer.
custard snap right next to me. Yeah, it's sweet.
Rhubarb and custard snack. Okay. Harry Potter or Lord of the Rings?
Lord of the Rings.
Lord of the Rings all day long.
Kaiser Chiefs or Soft Cell? Both from Leeds, so I thought I'd pick that one.
Yeah. We've got to go Kaisers. We actually were in the studios at a similar time as well. Weren't we?
Yeah, we were.
Okay.
Back in the day. Yeah, Kaisers.
Back in the day.
Cool.
Summer or winter?
Winter.
Summer.
Winter.
Okay. Yorkshire tea or PG tips?
Oh, Yorkshire tea.
Even for us Southerners, I'm a Yorkshire tea.
Or Yorkshire Gold if you're from the posh part of Yorkshire, from Harrogate.
Yorkshire Gold.
Harrogate.
Was that me? Or was
you're
that
next.
Yeah, camping or hotel? Sorry, mate. Yeah. I was stuck on-
Hotel. Hotel. I'm 10 years past wanting to camp.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll probably go towards hotel as well.
The Corn Exchange or Trinity Leeds for shopping?
Trinity.
Both Trinity. And the final one to wrap it all up. Here we go. Beatles or Cast?
Oh, well, without the Beatles, you don't get Cass. You've got to go Beatles.
There we go.
Yeah, for me, Beatles, nobody's done since the Beatles quit what they didn't at least try once in 7 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fair play.
Cool. Well, there you go. Interesting. A few interesting questions for you guys.
That was fun, that. Thank you.
Yeah, so thanks for doing that. All right.
There you go. So yeah, we'll keep an eye on what you're doing. If you do come up with the album release and eventually find a name for it, let us know where we can find it, and we'll promote it out there as best as we can. But thanks for all your time. Thanks for letting us react to your song as well, and meeting you two guys. Say hello to the other two for us. Hope they checked out the reaction. And
thank you very much.
But brilliant. All right. We'll give you some of your evening back, but thanks very much for joining us.
Yeah, great to meet you both. Thank you so much. Yeah.
So make sure, everybody, that you hit the subscribe button. Do go and check out Tillerman over their channel. All those sites Sean said. Everything, all the links will be in the description below. So all it is to say thank you very much, guys.
Thank you.
Top.
Thank you for
really good.
us.
Do stay in touch.
Until next time.
Yeah, stay in touch.
Yeah,
Goodbye
absolutely.
from us.
Thanks a
All
lot.
right.
Bye from us.
Bye, everyone.
Take care. Bye, everybody. Goodbye from him over there as well. Bye.